So here we are at the Reeds Beds bird hide. It's part of the Murray Valley National Park. We've just come off this big sandhill, which is the border of the old Barmer Lake, formed when the river was held up by the massive uplift along the Cadell Fault. And our aim today is to try and understand how the forest changes as we move away from the top of the sand dune up there right down to the reed beds bird hide at the end of this path. So we'll be doing bird counts, we'll be doing tree measurements, and through these we'll be trying to understand what is driving the differences between up there on the high ground and how things change all the way down to the lakes at the bottom of this path. So one of the things you'll be doing is looking where the largest trees are and how healthy they are. So in which area are we going to find the biggest trees, and in which areas are they the most healthy? Also, where are the seedlings growing? Are they all in one spot? You can see a few here. Or are they evenly distributed? So how does the forest regenerate? How does it spread? What does it need? So I've just been talking about tree size. You can see not all of these trees are healthy. Some of them are dead. They've been cut off so the branches don't fall on people. Some of them are regenerating, like this one here, without many leaves. A lot of dead sticks. And others look quite healthy, like this one here. So some of the measurements you can make are the size of the tree. To measure the size of the tree, you look at how wide it is. You measure its width at about the height of your shoulders. A couple of honey eaters flying through there. And the other thing you can do is you can measure how healthy the crown, the leafy canopy of the trees are. So to measure the health of the tree canopy, you first look at whether it has dead wood up there, so this one here above the toilet block has got some dead wood, maybe 50%, larger sticks, and we rank that from 1 to 5. So if there is no dead wood, no dead sticks at all, perhaps like this tree here in the middle, that would be a 1. Sorry, that would be a 5. And one like this where it's no green at all would be a 1. They're the same. And this one in the background in the middle, that would probably be a 3. There's one a bit further back with brown leaves at the top, not much living up there at all. That would be probably a 1. It really seems like it's on the way out. The brown leaves actually at the top there, mistletoe, which is also a sign of poor health. So you give it a score for its stickiness. How sticky is it? So those saplings down there, there's hardly any dead wood on them at all. So they'll be a 5 in terms of their stickiness. They're not sticky at all. They're all green. The next thing you look at is how leafy they are. So these saplings, they would probably get a 5 out of 5. They're fully green. They're almost as green as they could be. This tree here, it's pretty good. You would, in terms of its potential, it's not quite there. So it's probably a 4 out of 5. This one here in the middle, the tall thin one, that one would probably also be a 4 out of 5. Its leaves are fairly bunched up, they're growing, but it's not as fully developed as it could be. This one here, it's been pretty struggled but coming back. It's probably about a 2, and we'll see if we can find a 1. A 1 would be a tree like this one here with a fork in the middle, just going up, where there's really just a few areas of leaves. So anyway, we add those two together and we get a score out of 10. Now, for each area that you look at, you can determine the size of a tree and the health of the tree. And if you want to just relate that size to the age of a tree, there's a rule of thumb which says for every centimetre of growth, the tree's about a year old. Now that does vary depending on how much water they get, but that would mean a tree like this one here, with a width of probably about 60 centimetres, would be about a 60-year-old tree. Whereas that little sapling down there is probably about 2 years old. Okay, so you can see that the health of the trees changes as we walk down and towards the lake. And one of the reasons is because of the amount of water that they're exposed to. The further down towards the lake, the more often they're flooded, and river redgums, they love water. The saplings seem to be in a line. Do you notice that? So that tells you something. It tells you that that water either gathered here and they were able to germinate, or that they were carried up there on a flood wave. And you will find, if you look through the bush, that it tends to be in a line. And in fact, this line here, this line of saplings, all the way through here and all the way across there, is where the 2016 and 2012 floods came to. So at the date of taking this film, that's about 3 and 7 years ago. The understory is also changing, so that's something we're looking at too. The types of grasses, the amount of timber on the ground as well. And entering into the bird hide here, another great mistletoe there. That one's dead now, almost. It becomes darker and darker. The tree canopy is more closed, less light is getting through to the bottom. It's noticeably cooler. At the right times of the year, this whole area is covered by water. Every now and then you'll see a big stump showing how large the trees used to be through here. You could assume that this area was pretty much clear felled, but before that the trees were around this size here. So walking down through here, Rosella's chatting above us. We're getting to the area of the giant rush. And giant rush is the largest rush in the world that I'm aware of. It'll grow over 2 meters, it likes to be flooded occasionally, but not all the time. So we find it nearer the lake, but not right in the lake, not in the deepest sections. There it gets replaced by reeds, which like to be wet most of the time. Do you notice the size of the trees are changing? These are larger, the canopy is even more closed. This is the kind of conditions that the trees like most. It's also difficult to log down here because it's so often wet. So some of the older trees have survived if you get to ever take a walk through here. We've also got quite a few young trees growing up here, quite dense, too dense for them to thrive until their neighbours die. So there's a lot of competition for resources, not just between species but within the species themselves. When an area is logged and managed for forestry, they thin these trees out so that individual trees like this tall one here, which would be good for forestry, are preferenced, and the nutrients and water is not taken away from them by these other trees all around them. So we've got competition within the species. The red on the trunk is actually a sign of health, a sign of rapid growth. When red gums are really healthy and growing quickly, their trunks become red. The dark areas right down the bottom, they're like socks. They're a defense against a way of surviving the frequent floods. So these socks here are around about 2 meters high, which shows that the floods regularly get that high, or have been that high for some period of time. This fallen tree here is an example of habitat created. Even when something dies, it becomes a place for other things to live. So we're getting down the end of the bird hide here. You can see the reeds in the distance, and that's where we'll do our bird observation, at least that part of it.